If you want to understand exposure in DaVinci Resolve 20, this tutorial is going to make it much easier. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to use the video scopes, how to read the waveform, and how to adjust your image so your footage looks properly exposed and balanced. This is one of the most important skills in color grading, because even if your video looks okay to the eye, the scopes tell you the truth. So if you want cleaner, more professional-looking color correction, keep watching. And if this tutorial helps you out, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more DaVinci Resolve tips just like this. Alright, let's jump in. First, open DaVinci Resolve 20 and go down to the bottom of the interface. Here, you want to click the Color tab. This is the workspace where all of your color grading tools live, and it's also where you'll find the scopes that help you analyze exposure. Once you enter the color page, you'll notice the layout changes to give you access to wheels, curves, and monitoring tools designed for professional color work. Now look toward the top right of the viewer area. You should see the scopes icon in the monitoring panel. Click that icon to turn on the video scopes. This is the part that gives you the visual data representation of your footage, which is incredibly useful when you're trying to see exactly what your image is doing instead of guessing based on the preview alone. Scopes help you detect crushed shadows, clipped highlights, and uneven brightness across the frame. Next, inside the Scopes window, choose the Waveform scope from the drop-down menu. The waveform is one of the best tools for checking exposure because it shows luminance levels across the entire image. On the scale, black is represented near 0, and white is represented near 1023. That means if your trace is sitting too low, your image may be underexposed, and if it's pushing too high, you may be losing highlight detail. The waveform gives you a clear way to see where your shadows, midtones, and highlights are landing. Now that the waveform is visible, take a look at your footage and compare the image to the scope. You'll want to pay attention to where the trace sits from left to right, as well as how high or low it is overall. Dark areas should not be crushed all the way to the bottom unless that's the creative look you want. Bright areas should stay within range so you don't clip important detail. This is where the scopes become much more reliable than just looking at the viewer, especially when a monitor is not perfectly calibrated. To correct the exposure, go to the Primaries palette in the bottom left corner of the color page. This is where you'll find the lift, gamma, and gain controls. These three dials are the foundation of exposure adjustment in DaVinci Resolve. Lift controls the shadows, gamma controls the midtones, and gain controls the highlights. If your image is too dark, you can gently raise the gamma or gamma depending on which area needs adjustment. If your shadows are too heavy, lift can bring them back into a better range. If your highlights are too bright, bring gain down slightly to preserve detail. As you make these adjustments, watch the waveform closely. The goal is to keep the trace in a healthy range between the 0 and 1023 lines without letting important parts of the image get clipped or crushed. You don't want to overcorrect. Small, careful movements usually give the cleanest results. Make one adjustment, check the scope, and then refine it again if needed. This method is much better than moving every control randomly and hoping for the best. A good workflow is to first balance the shadows with lift, then fine-tune the midtones with gamma, and finally check the bright areas with gain. That way, you're shaping the image in a controlled way while keeping the exposure consistent across the frame. If you're working on a talking head, for example, you want the face to sit naturally in the waveform without looking too flat or too washed out. If you're grading a landscape, you may want to preserve sky detail while keeping the foreground visible and clean. The best part about using scopes is that they give you consistency from one clip to the next. Once you learn to read the waveform, you'll spend less time guessing and more time making creative choices with confidence. That can save you a lot of frustration, especially when matching multiple shots in the same project. So to recap, click the Color tab, open the Scopes icon in the top right, choose Waveform, and then use Lift, Gamma, and Gain in the Primaries panel to shape your exposure. Keep an eye on the 0 to 1023 range, and use the waveform as your guide for a cleaner, more accurate grade. If this video helped you understand exposure scopes in DaVinci Resolve 20, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more easy tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.